This session is going to be about leadership and excellence. It's going to be about coaching for on and off the field success. It's a whole body of work that we're all responsible for with the student athletes the good Lord placed in our care, right? And one thing we cannot do is take for granted that role that we have. We got to be able to pour into the young men that we're able to coach. You know, obviously the transfer portal has changed everything. You may have a kid for 6 months, you may have him for 4 years, but it's still our responsibility to be able to develop a lifelong relationship with that individual. So being present with him on a day-to-day basis, anytime you get a teachable moment, making sure you maximize that opportunity and just pour into their lives. Obviously, everybody in here has heard kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I put a quote up on this. It says, leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. So I wanted to make sure that I shared that with you guys at the beginning and everything that goes with it. He mentioned a little bit about my background. I was someone that started out in Division III. I coached at Millsaps from 2005 to 2008. I transitioned to Charleston Southern, which is an FCS school in South Carolina. I was there from 2009 to 2013. That's where my wife and I got married at. That's where we had my first kid. And when my first son was born, he was 2 weeks old. I got a call from Tim DeRuiter. He was the head coach at Fresno State. And he said, Marcus, I want you to come and be my secondary coach. So I literally went from the Atlantic coast all the way to the Pacific. And thank God I had a wife that was willing to allow for me to take that journey. From there, I transitioned to Memphis. Mike Norvell got the head coaching job at Memphis. He ended up reaching out to me, and I accepted the job. So I went there to Memphis from 2016, 2017, transitioned to Auburn, 2018, 2019 with Coach Malzahn. And when Coach Norvell got the head job at Florida State, he presented an opportunity for me to be there. I was there from 2020 to 2022, and here I am standing before you representing the University of Arkansas. And I wanted to share that. I put the logos up here because someone in here is coaching Division III. Someone in here is coaching FCS. Somebody in here is coaching high school. I stand before you humble to be able to say, man, I worked my butt off. I treated people right, and what I did every day was poured into the kids that I was able to coach. And because of that, I accomplished a dream and was able to make it up to the SEC. That's when all the gray hair started coming about, if you will. But I say that because, man, wherever you're at in your journey, treat people right, do the right thing, do right by the kids that you have, work to perfect your craft, and you can accomplish whatever it is that you want to accomplish. So I wanted to make sure I shared that. On behalf of Sam Pittman, my head coach, as well as my defensive coordinator, Travis Williams, I'm here representing the staff. I won't go through each individual, but this is what it's about. I hate leaving my family in the morning when I got to go to work, but I love showing up to work because who I do it with. I saw our defensive line coach, Coach Adams. I think he may be in here somewhere, Deke Adams. He does a phenomenal job with the defensive line. But that's the full staff that we have there. All right, today, just as an overview, I'm going to go through the coaching philosophy, standards and expectation, the holistic development, understanding NIL and the transfer portal, if it's a such thing as understanding it, okay? Leadership development, and then talk a little bit about the meeting structure that we have and some on-field development, and we'll get into some defensive back play with the on-field development aspect of it. These cards here that I handed out, it's my responsibility to keep you guys' attention and to keep you engaged throughout this session. And one philosophy I have is being able to have fill in the blanks. That's a way that I've created where I can keep my kids engaged, right? Being in front of them, making sure that they fill in the things that I want them to retain. Obviously, you got a better chance of retaining information when you write it down. So I wanted to share that as well, all right? Now, my coaching philosophy. I believe as a coach, anytime you're planning, okay, anytime you're planning, you need to start with the end in mind first and then come back to the present time in order to develop the process that needs to happen to get the end result, okay? So as we look at this, my core principles, I believe in building trust through communication. I want to speak so my players love to listen, and listen so my players love to speak. As I look back on my journey as a player, there was coaches I was fortunate to have in my life, and there were some that I really didn't want to hear. Because what happened was that word trust. Trust is hard to earn, but it's easy to lose. And one thing that's important is when you tell a kid something, your words have to matter, right? Words have to matter, and it's important that you speak so they love to listen. And more importantly, you got to be able to listen so they love to speak, okay? The next thing is I want to teach my players to build a positive system of habits aligned with their dreams and goals. As soon as you can be able to paint that end result to a kid, every kid wants to make it to the NFL. What's your process of developing him to be able to get to the NFL? And I think everything starts with the mind, right? How to train the mind, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But building a system of habits, that word habits, right? Obviously, your thoughts become your actions become your character, and your character become who you are. It's important that kids understand how they do anything is how they're going to do everything, right? So being able to teach them that being a better student is going to make you a better player, right? That's really important. So they need to understand all of that. And then the last thing, I want to be a servant leader by prioritizing the growth and success of others. Rather if that's the student assistants that I'm fortunate to have, rather if it's my GA that I'm fortunate to have, I want to be able to develop and be a servant leader to all of those that I'm fortunate to be around. That's on a day-to-day basis. All right. The next thing is the standards and expectations. I mentioned earlier about, the mind. And I think this is really important. You want to keep your mind stronger than your feelings. When a kid can master that skill, is really important, right? As soon as they wake up in the morning, it's really important that, because the feelings naturally is going to be, I want to stay in bed, but your mind got to tell you to get up and let's go to work, right? And that's for all of us as coaches. It'd be times where I don't feel like getting up and going to do what I do, but I remember why I do it, right? I remember why I do it and who I do it for, and that's what helps me. The next standard is being a consistent pro. What is a pro? A pro is someone that can manage their daily improvement. One thing that I've come to start doing in my players' lives is teaching them, as soon as you ask them, what does budget mean to you? They all say money, right? They all say money. But I think budgeting your time is really important. Having a plan for your time. If you got class at 11, what are you doing from 8 to 10:30? So what I always do is take a calendar, a weekly calendar, and go each day. What time their class is, what time they have to be at tutoring, whatever it may be. And I work around that to create an opportunity for them to maximize no wasted time, right? We all got 24 hours, and it's really important that they understand how to maximize that. The next thing is be an asset, not a liability to your surroundings, right? The language you use, verbally and non-verbally, body language, right? Making sure that you carry yourself with good posture. You bring value to those around you. That's really important. So be an asset, not a liability. Those the standards, those the expectations. I keep it simple. Now that's a broad statement for each one of those, but teaching them those to me is really, really important. I talked about the whole body of work. So being able to develop from the crown of their head to the bottom of their feet and everything that goes with it. And again, the mind. So what we want to do is build resilience, teach them how to understand academic success, and giving them some literacy about NIL, because it's a natural thing to do. These kids today, they count each other's pockets. They look at the locker to the left or to the right. They look in the parking lot that they pull up in and see who's driving the cleanest car. They look at it. And the more we can educate them that somebody is going to always have a bigger house, Somebody is going to always have more money in the bank. Somebody going to always have a cleaner car. And the more they can accept that and be grateful for what they are getting and what they do have, the more that we're helping them along the journey. But NIL, as of right now, they think it's monopoly money, and it's not, right? So teaching them the value of a dollar and how to understand it all is really, really important, all right? Now, NIL, likeness, and transfer portal. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is a very opinionated subject, but bottom line, if you get a kid out the transfer portal, I think teaching togetherness today is more important than ever. It always have been important, but the fluidity of a roster now, you get kids that's coming and going. I mean, it's the NFL now, right? And being able to build relationships and get them to have a we and us mindset instead of an I and me mindset is something that we in this room are all responsible for, right? And we still have to work together for a common goal, bottom line. And everything tells them to be selfish, everything, except what they see and hear from us. And that's why we're fortunate at Arkansas. They see the camaraderie amongst the staff. They see us as coaches hanging out beyond football. They see our wives together. They see our kids together. And that helps with the cohesiveness of it. They're going to catch how much they see you more than they hear you, right? So the more we can be able to have them in an environment where we're teaching togetherness, the more important things are. And then just at the end of the day, the NIL pressures, players being able to manage what they are getting, the financial literacy within that. That's our responsibility as well, right? Just teaching them how to manage the things that they do get from an NIL standpoint. Leadership development. Okay, we want to empower players to hold each other accountable. Again, on good teams, I believe this, coaches hold players accountable, but you become elite when players can hold each other accountable, right? That's really important. And the only way that can happen is by relationships. During my time frame coming up, we were challenged before we were supported. A coach, it's the first day at school. My mom and dad just dropped me off and we go to practice. He challenging me and he don't even know me. So I do believe we have to support them before we challenge them so they can respond to the challenge. You can't challenge someone that you don't know. You can't challenge someone that don't know you. So it's really important that we be able to teach that and empower the players to be able to drive accountability. The brotherhood is still relative to this day to be able to put an experienced player with a freshman. That's still relative. Back when I was a freshman, I played at Ole Miss for Coach Cutcliffe. He assigned it an older senior to be able to be my big brother. And I still believe in that to this day. All right, the next thing is community engagement. Use your influence in a positive way. Build character through service. Go to the elementary school and go serve, okay? We had a devastating tornado that hit Northwest Arkansas this year, and we had players that went out and got involved with community service, just the cleanup, right? Just being present, just being involved. That's really important.